Now, we had a look at this Toyota HiLux a few months ago, but we are here today to have a first drive of this 9th generation vehicle. Car has been around for a long time, and this new model doesn't move a long way away from its predecessor. You do have this new cyber sumo themed front end, designed to look like a sumo wrestler getting ready for battle. It's boxy, it's larger, and it's more angular, and it really does give the car a very good presence on road. They have changed a little bit with the chassis, not a great deal, but more so to accommodate a couple of the suspension settings that they have come up with this entire range. You've got 2 different suspension settings running from the Workmate all the way up to the Rugged X. There's been internally new designs, but what I'm most excited about is A, to see whether Toyota have done enough to maintain this vehicle at the top of the pile when it comes to utes in Australia, but also to see how it actually drives both on-road and off-road. So let's go and take a look. Come with me, I can't wait to get started. We spent 2 days on the south coast of New South Wales with the opportunity to drive all of the different grades of the HiLux except for the Rugged X, which was a pre-production model. Our route took us over suburban streets to highways with a decent amount of off-road as well. Tracks included standard gravel roads, some very uneven tracks allowing for decent amounts of wheel lift, and also testing of the traction control system. All of the grades were the 4x4 models, with the Workmate being the entry level. We also had time in SR grades, SR5 and the SR Plus. My pick of the bunch though is the Rogue, priced at $71,990 before on-road costs, as it has all of the comfort a family would expect and adds rear disc brakes among a few other safety additions. All models now get LED headlights, lane centering assist, blind spot monitoring and satellite navigation. Heated seats, a heated steering wheel, off-road cameras and rear disc brakes add to the flavour of the Rogue, as does the tub upgrade, with marine carpet lining coming as standard. When you actually step into the car, you'll notice it's a much more ergonomic design. It's very comfortable, feels very spacious. The centre stack is a little bit wider than previous, and you can see that some of the styling cues are taken from both the Prado and the 300. You've got dual zone climate control in this Rogue, and it's all push button operated, and down below that you've got control for your traction control, driving modes, as well as a small phone charger, which is a little bit tight to get your hand into. Storage wise, you've got a small bin located on the passenger side. It's deeper than previous, and then you've also got a glove box there. The drink holders, 2 drinks can go in this center stack here, or you've got a cup holder driver's side and also passenger side. It's located right in front of the air conditioning vent. Keeps your drink cold, and that is a great design. I really do like that. The armrest hides a deep storage bin. You've also got a 220 volt plug in there, which gives you power. If you have a laptop or something like that, you can plug it in there quite easily. The seat's new. On the higher models, you have electronic seat adjustment, and on the lower models, obviously, that's a manual adjustment. A couple of things that I have noticed whilst driving the car: if you have a manual version, the location for your plugs for your phone or your power for your phone are right in front of the gear stick, which actually do get in the way a little bit. It's a little thing, you can get away from it with a 90-degree cord, but it is one thing that I have noticed. And the other thing I did notice, and I'm not sure as to why this may be the case, the wind noise is a little bit louder on the passenger side than the driver's side. Not invasively loud, but it is a noticeable difference between passenger and driver's position. One thing that I would like to see is probably a little bit more room for your left leg. That's the only other thing that I have noticed, where your leg really does sit up against this sort of center arrangement here. But apart from that, it really does feel spacious. It feels larger than it is. I mean, it's the same size platform essentially, but it does feel bigger than it did previously. It really is a great place to drive a car from. Another external design element that they've added into this update is a side step near the rear of the car. So that side step allows me to reach up and over and into the tray. I'm a short person and I can't do it from the ground effectively, so that does make that process much more simple. I think that tub's ample in size. If you're going camping with a family, there's plenty of room in there. You've got a tie-down system that runs along the edge of either side in this model, and you've also got a 12-volt power socket there as well. In some of the other models, you've got a more simple tie-down arrangement, one in each corner, but depending on the model you choose, you're going to find enough room in here. I do like this carpeted look in the Rogue, so if you throw something in there, it's not going to slide around. The Workmate, for example, is just the basic tub. There's no lining in there at all. But this one for me is the pick of the bunch. I really do like this setup, and I think it would be perfect for a family looking to get a car they can take adventuring. The fun part about getting into any new vehicle is actually getting to drive it. And looking at it is one thing, but getting to physically drive the car is really where you get to see the little differences between one car and another. When it comes to Toyota, I'd expect that this will be a very comfortable car on the road, and I have discovered on these last couple of days that it is actually that. There are two different suspension setups, so depending on whether you're getting a Workmate or an SR, which has what they call a heavy-duty suspension setup, or the SR5 and above, which has more of what they call a multi-purpose setup, the car does ride a little bit differently. Obviously, your heavy-duty setups for guys that are throwing a lot of weight into the back of the car, it's more of your workers, your tradies type of suspension, whereas the multi-purpose suspension setup is geared more towards on-road comfort. And I must say, in driving the Rogue, particularly on-road, I've found that this car is far more compliant than the previous model. It still feels somewhat like a ute, but it does almost resemble more so a car in terms of the way it drives. It has far less of that jitteriness that you get when you're driving an unladen ute, you know, when they go over bumps and it feels like it takes a while to settle down. This car doesn't take that long to settle. So it is in that respect very, very comfortable. And this car also has electric assisted steering now. It's a new system that it's relatively light. Now, changing your modes, driving modes, you can have sporty, normal or eco. It does change the setting on the steering wheel a little bit, but electric assisted, it is fairly good. It goes where it's supposed to go. It isn't too heavy to turn. The feedback's good, and I do actually really enjoy the steering of this particular vehicle. The driving position is excellent. All of your controls are within reach. One omission has been a button to turn off your proximity warnings. I think that is a mistake. I think that's a button that anyone who goes off-roading is going to want to have on their car. As it stands at the moment, you access it through the display directly in front of the driver. Now, there are two 12-inch displays, a 12.3-inch screen in the centre. One of the bugbears I have with the design is it looks like they almost forgot to put it on and then added it later. It doesn't really interact well with this updated dashboard. I wish it was integrated more effectively into that space. But that being said, it's really easy to use, and you can see it very easily if you need to glance at it from the driving position. You've got a 3-spoke steering wheel, so you've got a large gap where you can actually see everything from. And the controls on the steering wheel, you know, cruise control, menu adjustments, volume control, answering the phone, etc. are very easy. I mean, it's a typically clever and effective Toyota layout. Makes it very easy to actually drive the car. You're not reaching for anything, you're not distracted by anything. Everything's where you want it to be. Visibility out the front window is good, a little bit hampered by these pillars here and the large handle, but obviously if you're off-roading you really do want that. Is it the best ute I've driven? It's hard to say. I'd like to spend more time. It's one of the more comfortable utes that I've driven for sure. These seats are definitely very comfortable. The armrest is in a good place, but certainly the pedigree of Toyota, you know what you're getting. You know you're going to get a very comfortable car, a well thought out car, and I think this, particularly the Rogue model, is exactly that. But in terms of its off-road capabilities, this car really did surprise me. We went over some undulations, wheel lifts, etc. We didn't have diff lock on, and the traction control system that's in this car, the MTS, does an excellent job of putting power where it needs to be and making sure the car can crawl over fairly uneven surfaces without too much trouble at all. There wasn't a lot of wheel spinning. There was wheel lifting definitely, but not a lot of wheel spinning when we were driving along at a slow speed on the track, and that made it very easy. It's comfortable. I mean, any family looking to do a little bit of semi-serious off-roading could do far worse than to buy a Toyota HiLux. I mean, you know that if something goes wrong, it's going to be fixed pretty quickly. You've got local dealerships all over the place. And if something goes wrong in the bush, you've probably got the best after-sales support network in the country. So there is that to consider as well when you're looking at buying a car, dual cab ute of any kind. One thing they have done is there has been some changes, not to the chassis dimensions, but to the chassis strengthening some parts. And I think that is related to, you know, the suspension changes that they've made. So the suspension changes may add extra stress or different stresses to different points of the chassis, and therefore they've strengthened up certain parts of it. But dimension-wise, the bonnet at either side actually raises or lifts up. It does impact your visibility somewhat to the side of the vehicle, but I think once you've owned one for a little while, you're going to get used to that pretty quickly. And I don't think that's going to be a huge problem. It is a very manageable vehicle, this one, on-road and off-road, and I think part of the size really does add to the simplicity of the drive. Too big sometimes gets too hard. And I think also, if I think about the type of buyer this car appeals to, I mean, it's not a huge leap in terms of a design change. And I think that's because the owners of these cars want something that's reliable, practical, and easy to drive. And therefore, any huge changes to the format may affect the overall popularity. So I think on that respect, Toyota have really stuck with what is a tested and proven model and kept it relatively simple in order that the appeal is still there for the same buyer that has always loved owning a Toyota HiLux. We've had 2 days with this vehicle on the south coast of New South Wales, and it has been a ball. I've driven everything, the Workmate, all the way up to the Rugged X. This one in front of me is the Rogue, and that is probably second from the top in the lineup, but very, very comfortable. I can say that this car is better than its predecessor. It feels far more composed on-road, unladen that is, and it is much more compliant. And that is probably down to the suspension settings that they've come up with in collaboration with a few of the design teams around the globe. For me, it's not a huge step forwards in terms of design, appearance, and the engine obviously is that 2.8 litre diesel that runs across now the entire range. Is it enough to keep it at the top of the pile? Well, I think it will be. Toyota has a name that is, I guess, steeped in history in Australia. It's reliable. Their service centres are second to none. And there are always going to be that people that will keep coming back to that badge. In fact, 51% of sales of this HiLux are actually to people who have owned one previously. And I see no reason for that not to continue.